I'm Kelly Jennings, CEO of PowerBand Solutions. PowerBand is a cloud-based provider of auction, inventory, and finance solutions that make buying, selling, and financing vehicles more efficient. PowerBand Solutions trades on the TSX Venture Exchange symbol PBX and on the OTCQB symbol PWWPF and on Frankfurt symbol 1ZB. For more information, please visit us at powerbandsolutions.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Ted Dixon, CEO and co-founder of InkResearch.ca. He invented the Inc. Canadian Insider Index, which is used by the Horizons Canadian Insider Index ETF, a 2017 and 2018 Fund Data Fund Grade A Plus award winner. His website, CanadianInsider.com. Welcome back to the show, Ted.
Well, it's great to be back, Jim.
The SNC Lavalin hearings held by the Federal Government Justice Committee. How does this affect business and the way people approach it in Canada if you think things are cooked at the top, or might be?
What a series of events that have happened in Ottawa over the past 24 hours, Jim. And it's really opened the door, I think, in terms of transparency for Canadians. They actually heard former Justice Minister explain what goes on in these offices. And, you know, as someone who worked in Parliament Hill many years ago, for a few years when I was a lot younger, you know, I believe every word that Judy Wilson-Raybould said. It was all believable, and it's sad that is kind of how far things have come in the system, where it really seems to be a cooked system. Now, let's leave aside the question of illegalities, because that's going to be looked at. I have to assume that the opposition has written to the RCMP. And it's being discussed by lawyers, which I'm not a lawyer. Let's leave that aside. But I mean, that basically comes down to did Justin Trudeau or his staff cross the line in interfering with justice? So we'll leave that to the lawyers. But I think, Jim, the problem is that right now you're going to have a government in paralysis that's going to try to do the John Chrétien playbook and kind of wrap themselves around in jobs and the like and run out the clock. But there's three problems here. First of all, Bill Morneau is supposed to deliver a budget. Well, it's pretty clear that I call him the anti-small business minister, after his attack on small business a few years ago. It's pretty clear that he's very concerned about big business elites in Montreal. He had his chief of staff was one of the first people to try and twist the Attorney General's arm, according to the testimony. Now, he will say, "Oh, this is all about jobs." Well, it's really only about, and this is a spin that the mainstream media are swallowing, hook, line, and sinker, and they really need to do a reality check on this. The spin is it's all about jobs. Well, no, it's really about a few jobs at the top in Montreal. That's really what it's about, because the Canada line, which is which SNC Lavalin basically runs, that's not going to stop if SNC Lavalin were to be found guilty of a criminal activity. Maybe the company would go bankrupt, maybe it wouldn't. You don't know. It's all hypothetical. However, any viable business segment in SNC Lavalin could be sold or reparceled out. These people are not going to lose their jobs in a viable business segment in SNC Lavalin. If anything, you can make the case that under a new management culture, these businesses could do better. So this is a total red herring that, unfortunately, the mainstream media just accept. They should not be accepting it. They should be pressing people like Mr. Morneau to give us numbers. Is the SNC pensions at risk? If so, what are the numbers? Why does the government keep telling us about this? So it's painting a very dark picture of Canada in terms of ethics and who is it a level playing field? If you're a powerful Montreal company with high paid lobbyists, you get the finance minister's attention. If you're a small business, then you're trying to sell your business to your your son or your daughter. No, that's no good. There's a special tax for you. I mean, that's the priorities that Bill Morneau has set out as his legacy as finance minister, favoring well-connected corporate elites, and at the same time really trying to dismantle some of the important foundations for the family small business. So that's one issue. The other issue is, to take this jobs spin that the Liberals keep spinning out a little further. If jobs are so important, why was the Prime Minister, and this is very important, why was the Prime Minister willing to push the law to the boundaries, if not break it, had the Attorney General agreed? Because in her testimony, Judy Wilson-Raybould, I believe, suggested had she done what the Prime Minister had asked, that would have been likely a criminal offense. So if he was willing to push the law to the extreme, why won't he use every legal tool at his disposal to get the Trans Mountain Pipeline built, which is holding a whole industry and a province hostage by having that thing sit there idle? If he was really concerned about jobs, then he would, of course, be doing everything he can to get jobs going in Alberta. But there seems to be a difference between the value of corporate jobs in Montreal and a whole entire industry of workers in the field in Alberta. So this is a national unity issue. So this is another problem for the Liberals. And then, of course, Jim, there's the third issue of overall trustworthiness. And I have to say, I was not planning on watching that whole testimony. But, I tuned in and I could not take my eyes and my ears off of what the former Attorney General was saying. And she was completely believable. And then to hear Justin Trudeau come back and totally say, no, everything he did was appropriate. Well, it got me thinking, Jim, of that old saying, how do you know when a politician is lying? Well, his lips are moving. And it's exactly, I think, what the case with Justin Trudeau. I don't think he's got now any kind of moral ability to govern. In fact, he wasn't even he couldn't even go to the House of Commons today to take the heat. So he's already showing signs that he's unable to govern. So we will have to see how this plays out, but I think you've got a government that's in paralysis. Yes, they're going to try and spin their way out of this and do a few gimmicks here and there, but I don't think it's going to work. And Canadians really have to take every Canadian who cares about democracy and their government and values their freedom, they should listen to what Judy Wilson-Raybould said. It's absolutely a must listen to testimony. I've never seen anything like it, and it's going to have repercussions for years and years to come. That was a historic day on Parliament Hill yesterday.
Well, when Justin said he didn't believe anything she said, didn't he just accuse her of perjury? Because isn't it sworn testimony when you go before the Justice Committee?
I was very surprised at his approach. I thought what he would have done, and which he didn't, so it's academic, that he would have said, well, I listened to her and she's made some points, and we've made some mistakes, and we're going to separate the AG from the Attorney General from the Justice Minister's role and try and move on that way. But no, he's putting up a fight, and I wonder if it's sort of like a family feud, Jim, because way back in the early constitutional days in the 1980s, I believe Chief Wilson had a run-in with the former Trudeau Prime Minister, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, and it was a pretty nasty series of confrontations at the time. And now fast forward, we have another generation here, and the drama is back. So it's, I don't know, this is a very, very, very peculiar situation. We've got a government that's dug in its heels. I think they're misguided. I think they can play, as I said, the Jean Chrétien playbook here to just sort of tough it out and talk about jobs. But, the media really have to start asking some tough questions. What jobs at stake? What are the numbers? How many jobs? And is that really the appropriate consideration when you're deciding to press charges or not, to go to court on a company accused of very, very serious corruption type bribery actions? And on your show last night with Bob Mackin, he described, in a little detail sort of what's at stake here. So there's got to be some answers, and this should not go away anytime soon. It gets right to the heart of the trustworthiness of this government. And again, how does Bill Morneau, with a straight face, get up and deliver a budget in a few weeks? It's all quite remarkable.
We'll have more with Ted Dixon right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Hi, I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Magnum Gold Corp, MGI and the TSX Venture Exchange. A 2015 drill program on the LH property intersected several high-grade gold intersections, including 11 meters of 20.66 grams per ton gold. Additional drill targets on the LH property have been identified by a 2018 drone airborne magnetic survey to further evaluate a pyrrhotite-enriched gold-bearing system. Please visit our website at magnumgoldcorp.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ted Dixon. Ted, what are insiders feeling about the markets in both Canada and the U.S. right now?
Earlier in the week on CanadianInsider.com, we published our weekly Insights newsletter, which everyone can take a look at, the public can take a look at on our Market Center page. And the headline for this week's edition was bullish signals flashing as our Insider Index winning streak continues. So up until early this week, the Canadian Insider Index, which tracks more or less some sort of mid-cap and small-cap stocks in Canada that insiders prefer, it had a 7-day winning streak. Now, that came to an end on, I believe it was on Tuesday, it came to an end. And the insiders, though, are pretty upbeat in Canada about the prospects going forward. They particularly like the oil patch. It's gone through a rough patch, as we all know, and everyone in the industry knows. But prices apparently, have corrected, I think, enough to reflect all that. So there's some upbeat signals we're getting in the market from Canadian insiders about the Canadian market. We'll have to see if their signals play out here, but there is one area where we're seeing a warning sign, and that is in the marijuana space. Our pharmaceuticals indicator, when this is in the newsletter, which people can take a look at, it's had a pretty good track record at picking the highs and lows here in the pot stock space, and it's given us a weak, I would call like a low conviction bearish signal. So what we've suggested is, look, those stocks that have a low NKH outlooks, or if that's basically our ranking system on individual stock names, or if you're holding a stock that you think is relatively overvalued or has some weak fundamentals, take profits in those. And really, if you're going to stay committed to the space, stick with the best quality, the ones with the highest rankings, the highest probability of fundamental success here, that have the usual solid fundamentals behind them, solid management, and are not fully priced by the market. Maybe you hang on to some of those, but you certainly want to look at trimming some exposure here, particularly to the weaker names, and that includes some of the bigger names. None of the big names that are familiar to your listeners have particularly attractive outlooks from our criteria. We still continue to favor selectively some of the smaller names, mostly with international opportunities or opportunities in the United States. But for the big pot growers, fully priced risk is not fully priced in. So probably a good time to take some money off the table there.
Now, an interesting development, and I don't know what it means in money terms, but I saw a little slug on TV that said scientists have used GMOs to create cannabis out of beer yeast. Well, that would change the whole production thing, where you don't need a giant greenhouse or a field to produce pot. You just need a big tank.
Well, it could change the entire dynamics of the industry, and it kind of reminds me of what John Rubino was saying on your show a few weeks ago, that he kind of thought that the big pharma players would eventually kind of muscle into the space. And, if something like that were to be possible, that would, could be right up their alley, or even one of the large giant food company alleys. So there's a lot of risk in this industry that it's going to be disrupted. I mean, I know there's the CEOs of these large pot growers like to say that they're disrupting things, but they could be disrupted as well, and that's an interesting idea. I'm not aware of it, but look, if it's not that, it could be something else that changes the way cannabis is produced and delivered. So a lot has to be written in this industry going forward, and I'm not so sure that when you see the stocks get up to these levels that all the risks are being fully priced in.
We'll have more with Ted Dixon right after this.
Arctic Star Exploration, operated by a team of proven mine finders, is focused on diamonds in Finland and the Northwest Territories of Canada. Work programs are underway in Finland and Canada. Arctic Star trades on the TSX Venture Exchange symbol ADD, on Frankfurt symbol 82A1, and the OTCQB symbol ASDZF. Please visit our website arcticstar.ca or call us at 604-689-1799.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ted Dixon. Ted, what's going on in the gold mining space?
Well, as your listeners are well aware, we're coming up to PDAC this weekend in Toronto. A lot of excitement, and usually traditionally that tends to be a bit of a curse because stocks rally into it, and then after the conference is over, often they head south. But this time around, we still see a pretty good insider sentiment towards the industry. There hasn't been a lot of euphoria in terms of the market going into it. Gold stocks have recovered from their lows, absolutely, but we're still seeing good opportunities in the junior mining space. We highlight them once in a while for the public on Canadian Insider. Also, our Canadian Insider Club members also get our daily newsletter, where if something comes across our screen, we alert them to it. So there are very good opportunities that come along, but of course there's a lot of duds, and that's always the case though in junior mining. And right now, I'm kind of constructive in terms of how things are lining up. On our last show, Jim, we talked about interest rates potentially surprising in the bond side on the upside. We're seeing a little move on that right now. But I think if that continues, it will beat over fears about U.S. Deficits and government crowding out the private sector. That should all be a decent environment for the gold miners, and it should provide some support. We're seeing a little bit of weakness here, perhaps due to seasonalities. But look, in terms of junior mining, you're really in it for whether this is the right environment for speculators, and those looking for growth opportunities can see that there's a case to return to this sector, which has been long forgotten. And I think that case is slowly building. So I think this is probably a 1.5 year recovery we're seeing in the junior gold. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. But, the insiders are signaling to us that there's a lot of really interesting little opportunities that are coming along. Of course, you have to be prepared for disappointments along the way. But, it's looking, we're optimistic about the next year or two for the Canadian junior gold space.
Ted, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks for having me back.
My guest has been Ted Dixon, CEO and co-founder of IncResearch.ca. His website, CanadianInsider.com. If you have any questions for Ted or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. You can find us on Twitter @HowStreet. Our popular YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.